Leeds United's attempt at doing transfer business is continuing this weekend, with a little bit of a rumour sparking up earlier today. Now, you might look at Leeds United's squad and you might think, well, we need to sign a number 9, but at the same time, we've got Joel Piroux, Lucas Metcher, we've got Pat Bamford, we've got Matteo Joseph, which means that someone is probably going to have to move out before we get another one in. And that is, interestingly, a story that is happening elsewhere at the same time involving a Leeds United player. But I'll get into all of that in a couple of minutes' time. Before I do so, if you're having a nice time, subscribe to the channel, like the video, be massively appreciated as always, and get a ticket to the Leeds Creator Cup. It's down below. It's happening in exactly a week. £7 for adults, £3 for kids. It's going to be a fantastic day, or you can just watch the stream. It'd be fantastic. Anyway, into the main topic of the video. I'm not going to do the faff bit right now. So the story specifically centres around Matteo Joseph, and there's been a lot of sort of discussions surrounding him this summer around, is he going to want to play football at a senior level? Because if he is, he's not necessarily going to stay at Leeds United. Is he going to exit? If so, under what sort of reasoning and contract, and in what direction is he going to leave? That makes everything a little bit complicated. And we've had a little bit of an update come out earlier today by two different sources, which makes me believe it a little bit more, and I've corroborated this as well with a bunch of people that I know personally over in Spain that work in the footballing industry that have said, yes, these are reliable sources. So I'm going to delve into that right now. So, firstly, from Alvaro Borrega, we have a little bit of news on a potential destination for Matteo Joseph, and this sort of sums up the entire conversation, in which he says that Real Betis keeps the negotiation for Matteo Joseph alive. He's the top choice to strengthen the forward line. The striker is holding off other offers and waiting, because he wants to play under Pellegrini. But it's crucial that Boya, specifically I believe this Boya Iglesias, or another forward, leaves as soon as possible to make room for him. Now, this is specifically because La Liga, if I remember correctly, has a very firm sort of salary cap. You're allowed to spend a certain percentage of your revenue on wages and transfer fees within a year. This is why year after year after year after year, there is conversation around, well, are Barcelona actually able to register this player or not? Because Barcelona really bad at money management, which means that no matter how big their revenues are, they're always sort of pushing those limits when it comes to wages and transfer fees. This is potentially one of those situations, and the Boya Iglesias deal is the one that is specifically sort of referenced in the thumbnail to this video, in which he's sort of valued at roughly £24 million. I feel like that's a little bit on the high side, because Iglesias doesn't seem to be the best of footballers recently. Let's have a very, very quick look at what his numbers were last season, actually. My apologies. I could have looked this one up beforehand. Did I remember to? Absolutely not. There we go. So last season, Boya Iglesias did very well, to be fair. Non-penalty goals per 90, he got 0.5, outperformed his XG, more than average assists, more than average expected assists, decent interception levels, attempts a good number of passes. He's a player that brings a significant amount of value to a team that would look for him. So you can assume 24 million quid might be a good shout for a club that's having a look. However, he became sort of rotational within that Betis side, who are looking for a little bit of a refresh, a little bit of a sort of spice up, because currently Iglesias is 32 years of age. Compare that to Matteo Joseph, who's 20, 21. You can see why they might want to do it. And let's be honest, Joseph has a quite interesting dynamic. He's got quite a good, what's the word I'm after? Profile. That's the one. He's got a very good profile to play in the Liga, because he's someone that looks to run off the shoulder, which would be pretty useful in that league, especially when you're considering that Real Betis think that Diego Llorente is a good enough centre-back to have the most minutes for them in the league last season. That's the sort of territory that we're working in right now. One in which Llorente is getting that many minutes. I think Joseph might thrive. Who knows? What it means for Leeds United is a little bit complicated. In terms of whether he go on loan or permanently, personally, I'd be a little bit more of a fan if he were to go out on loan, maybe with an option to buy, but a fairly high option to buy. So if he did perform really well, then cool, at least we've made our money out of him. If he didn't perform particularly well, then we'll work something out going forwards. But we sort of want to be able to take advantage of the potential that he's got rather than just sell. Maybe sell with a sell-on clause, but I think just sell for a straight fixed fee is a bit of a risk, considering we are potentially looking at Spain's number 9 here. That's an interesting position to be in for us, because it's not really a position that we're in very often, but we can be a little bit optimistic about all of this, I think. In terms of what it means for us going forwards, I personally don't think that we will wait for an extended period of time before making a move on a number 9 that we want. I don't think it's going to be a case of, I'll use Van Aert as an example because he's a player that I just quite like the look of. I don't think it's going to be a case of we can only sign Van Aert once we've got Matteo Joseph out of the door, because at the same time, we're not waiting to get Sam Greenwood out of the door to get midfielders in. At the same time, we're not waiting to get, just think of another example, Vobra out of the door before we got a centre-back in. We're not a club right now that needs to wait to sell before we buy. We want to make sure we've got the reinforcements in first before we get the original troops off the battlefield. That metaphor doesn't particularly work, I'll be honest, but we're going to roll with it. We're gonna hope, and it's going to be fine. I think the Matteo Joseph question's a big one, though, because a lot of people look at him and they say that as a result of the fact that he hasn't been like a first-team player, Daniel Farke therefore does not use youth. This is bollocks. We know this to be true. Crescencio Somerville mainly came to the fore under Daniel Farke. Archie Gray came to the fore under Daniel Farke. There is an opportunity for youth players, and Matteo Joseph was our starting striker at the start of last season, and he lost his place due to poor performances. I think there is space for young, promising players at Leeds United under the current ownership, under the current management, but I don't know if Matteo Joseph is the level that we need right now, especially after getting promoted. After getting promoted, we need quality, and we need quality now that is able to finish chances off. And we know that we don't strictly get that out of Matteo. Because throughout last season, whenever Matteo was starting, we would then bring on Joel Piroux, who would score in the second half. Which, sure, you could use the argument of Matteo has tired them out, but Piroux has sort of done his part as well. He's the one that's actually doing the finishing of the chances. This is admittedly a fairly waffly one. I will be completely honest about that. But for me, it's one where we need to waffle, because otherwise we're not going to get to all the individual topics of conversation that we sort of need to talk about. Basically, summing up, Matteo Joseph, Real Betis have an interest. He is interested in Real Betis. It's just a question of they need to move someone on before they get Matteo Joseph in. There hasn't been much conversation around fees. It would need to be something big to get him out of Leeds, or maybe a loan. I don't see a permanent deal being necessarily easy to do for anyone, which is kind of a good position for us to be in. But we'll find out. Sorry for the rambly video. They're going to happen from time to time, because I did a 12-hour work day today, and now it's 1 in the morning, and I'm recording this video. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. If you did, pop a like on it as always. Subscribe if you haven't yet, that'd be massively appreciated. And you can even be a channel member, because videos like this rambly boy are available early for members, which is quite nice. Also, if you missed the news, Stats is no longer able to commentate on the Creator Cup, neither is Crystal as a pitchside interviewer, but we have recruited from the under-21s LUFC Lucy off of Twitter, who is happy to be backup in that case and provide a little bit of support and do some interviewing bits, do some commentary bits. Be a fantastic day. So join us at the charity match, I guess. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. I will see you later. Toodaloo.